Good evening, and welcome to the Fairfax County Public Schools Post-Secondary Virtual Night event. My name is Kristen Avina, and I am a school counselor. I will be the moderator for this session titled Paying for College. Before we begin, I wanted to share a few pieces of information regarding tonight's session. Please note that this session will be recorded. If you experience any technical difficulties or need to leave the session early, the recording will be available. This session will be 45 minutes long. If time allows, a few participants will have the opportunity to type questions using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Please hold your questions until the end. If you have personalized questions or questions that are not for the general group, please email College Access Fairfax at questions@collegeaccessfairfax.org. This session will promptly end at 5:45 p.m. At this time, I will turn it over to our wonderful presenter, Bonnie Horowitz from College Access Fairfax.
Hi, thank you for attending this event. We're going to be discussing paying for college, the financial aid process. My name is Bonnie Davis Horowitz. I am one of the financial aid champions at College Access Fairfax. We are a nonprofit partner organization of Fairfax County Public Schools. We work with families, we work with our students to help them understand the financial aid process and complete the forms related to getting financial aid for your post-secondary education. In addition to this presentation, we also have presentations on finding scholarships. We have several completion events that are currently on our calendar. You can go to our webpage to see those. And then in the spring, we do another Paying for College session for our undergraduates. So let's get started to give you the information that you need. Today, we're going to cover these topics. We're going to first talk about the cost of attendance of college, what's included in that cost of attendance, and give you some examples of the cost of attendance of various schools. We're going to talk about who is responsible for paying for college. We're going to talk about the different types of financial aid that are out there. We're going to talk about how to apply for financial aid and the forms that you need to complete. And we'll talk about the different forms that are available and the deadlines for those forms. We're going to talk about how colleges use the financial information in these forms to determine your financial aid eligibility. And then we're going to talk about what happens once you have applied for financial aid. And then we're going to point you toward some helpful resources to use during the process. So first, let's talk about the cost of attendance. This is often abbreviated COA. So the cost of attendance includes both direct costs and indirect costs. Direct costs are those you pay directly to the institution. And these are your tuition, that's your cost for your classes, any fees associated with those classes or with the college. It also includes your housing, which is often a dorm. If they have required, some schools do require you to live on campus, and that is often dorm housing, or it could be a student apartment. Another direct cost is the meal plan. That's also a requirement for many first-year students to buy some type of meal plan. So those are the direct costs you would pay directly to the college. But there are also some other costs associated that are wrapped into that cost of attendance. Those would be the books and supplies you would need for your classes. It includes your travel to get to and from school. And it includes your personal expenses, just what it costs to buy a pizza or go to the CVS, buy concert tickets, things like that. So I'm going to give you the cost of attendance for some Virginia public schools, some private schools, and some out-of-state public schools, just to give you an idea of what that cost of attendance might be. The Virginia schools right now are all hovering somewhere around $40,000 per year for that cost of attendance. UVA is just over $40,000. Virginia Tech's a little higher at $42,700. Longwood is another public Virginia school, is $38,500. And then Nova, which is our community college, it actually costs for tuition just under $6,000 per year. but we've wrapped in some other living expenses because you do need to get to school. You might need gasoline, and you have to live and eat while you're going to college. But for the 21,706, about $6,000 of that is tuition per year. Private schools are more expensive, as you can see in general. The University of Richmond is about $88,000 per year now. Wake Forest is in the mid 90s. Marymount in Arlington is about 67,000, and Randolph-Macon College is almost 70,000. So you can see that private schools do have a higher cost of attendance. Sometimes there is some merit aid associated with these schools, as well as some Virginia grants. And then we have our out-of-state public schools. A lot of students express a desire to go to college outside of Virginia. And those that are looking for that experience will get charged out-of-state tuition, which tends to be higher than the tuition for in-state students. Clemson University is about $63,000 a year. Maryland is about $62,000 a year. Penn State's about $64,000 a year. And then West Virginia is 40, almost 44,000 just for tuition fees and housing and food. It doesn't include those indirect costs we talked about. There are schools that are out-of-state public schools that give some tuition breaks to out-of-state students. I do recommend going to the financial aid page of any college you're looking at and see if, based on your grades or test scores, if they offer some type of a tuition discount or possibly some scholarships that would come in the form of merit aid. So who is responsible for paying for college? The US federal government states that it's the parents' responsibility to pay for their students' post-secondary education to the best of their ability. The funding can come from both the parents' and students' personal assets. That might include their current income or salaries, their past income, which could come in the form of savings. It might come from other assets, with the exception is they do not look at your retirement savings for that. And it could come from future income in the form of loans. So financial aid helps bridge the gap between the cost of attendance that we saw and what the family is expected to pay. And the financial aid can come from many sources. It can come from the federal government, the state government, the colleges and universities, from private foundations, from civic, religious, service, and professional organizations, as well as employers and private companies. So there are generally 4 types of financial aid, and they're definitely not all created equal. We're going to talk about each one of these so that you understand what it is and why some are preferable to others. So we always emphasize to our students and families that we want to maximize gift aid. Gift aid is money you do not need to pay back, and grants are one type of gift aid. If the student withdraws from classes, sometimes they will need to be paid back, but in generally, we consider it gift aid that you don't need to pay back. So these awards can be based on merit, but it can also be based on financial need. There are several sources of grants. You've probably heard of the Pell Grant from the federal government. That's a grant is for our lower income students. Same with FSEOG grant. Our state government also offers several grants, such as the Virginia Tuition Assistance Grant that our private schools offer, as well as some others. And then there can also be grants that come directly from the colleges and universities. Scholarships are another form of gift aid. These take some effort on your part because you often need to apply for scholarships or let a university know that you want to be considered for scholarships. These can be based on financial need, but they can also be based on merit, whether it's your academics or your sports or extracurricular activities. There are many types of scholarships. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a separate presentation on scholarships. These scholarships can come directly from the colleges and universities in the form of institutional aid. It can also come from private foundations or other local organizations or employers. So how do you know about scholarships and where to get them? We are very much into scholarship season. Scholarship season generally runs from October through May. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they open in October and close in May. It's actually an ongoing process. Your students have the Naviance Scholarship Database. Hopefully they're going into it regularly. Scholarships are added to it all the time. Scholarships do not have the same open dates and close dates. They don't have the same requirements. So it's very important to stay on top of that. You can also go to the college and university financial aid offices. Many are listed on their financial aid page or on the specific majors or departmental pages. And you can also go to scholarship websites. So a few important things about scholarships, particularly outside scholarships. So if you receive an outside scholarship, you found one in Naviance and you apply to it and you actually earn that scholarship, it's up to you to notify the college that you won that scholarship. They don't know about that scholarship unless you tell them. And the college is going to use the funds to offset those direct costs we talked about earlier. That's the tuition, fees, housing, and food. Now, colleges do not all treat scholarships the same way. How would you know how a scholarship is going to treat a scholarship? You can actually just call the financial aid office and ask. Generally, the two ways they handle them is through stacking, where you can pretty much get as many scholarships as you want, and they will reduce the amount the student is personally responsible for. Another way scholarships are treated at the university is through a process called displacement, where an outside scholarship you earn may just reduce the amount of an institutional merit aid you've been awarded. So just be aware of that and stay in touch with the university so you understand their process for handling scholarships. Some students are able to qualify for work study. It's a federal work study program. It's based on financial need. Generally, it's a first come, first served basis. You do need to apply for those work study jobs on campus. The student generally gets paid by check or direct deposit. It's usually about minimum wage, and it's usually about 10 to 15 hours per week. It could be on or off campus. These are the types of jobs where you have a student working in the dining hall, or they might be checking students into the gym, or they might be checking out books at the library. They're usually very flexible, depending on your job and your particular situation. Sometimes students are able to get some of their schoolwork done during that time period if it's slow. But again, you would find out about these jobs through your financial aid office at the university. So another type of self-help aid is loans. Because remember, we've talked about gift aid, which is our grants and scholarships, and we've talked about self-help aid, which is going to be work study and loans. And we always encourage students to take out as few loans as possible because loans must be paid back. To only take out as much as you need and to really make sure you understand the amount that you're going to need to pay back. So when you complete the FAFSA, which we'll be talking about in a little bit, it makes you eligible for a direct student loan. We call them a Stafford loan. And a portion of it could be subsidized, which means the government pays your interest up until after your graduation. It could also be unsubsidized, which means you start accruing interest right from the time you take it out. So students are not allowed to take out any amount they want. A student can take out $5,500 their first year, $6,500 their second year, $7,500 their third year, and again their fourth year. That means a student in their own name can take out no more than $27,000. They want to minimize the amount that students need to pay back on their own after college. Parents, there might be some additional loans in a financial aid package that are the parent's responsibility. That would be one way you can help find the funds for college is to take out a Parent Plus loan. There's actually a change now where you can only take out $20,000 per student per year with this type of loan, with a $65,000 maximum per student. That's a new change that we have. You can also get private loans through a bank. Just remember that you really need to compare different loans. There's different fees associated with loans and different payback processes. So we do just make sure that you do as much research as possible. Really make sure you understand your loan if you go that route. Okay, so here's just an example of, here's George Mason University with the cost of attendance of $35,812. Let's say you got a maximum federal grant of the maximum Pell Grant, which is currently $7,395. Your student took out that direct student loan of $5,500 that they're entitled to. As a parent, you took out that $20,000 plus loan. It means that the parent would have out of pocket of $2,917 before any state or institutional funding. So how do you apply for financial aid? You need to fill out a form. The form you've probably been hearing about is the FAFSA, which stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Most of our students complete FAFSA. We want all students to complete FAFSA who are eligible to do so. Some of our students fill out a different form called Virginia Alternative State Aid. If we have students who are not yet citizens, who don't yet have their green card, that would be the form for them or for our dreamers. Some colleges, our more competitive colleges, require a second form called the CSS profile. And occasionally there are some institutional forms. So the most important thing you can do is bookmark the financial aid page for every college you are considering. Make sure you understand the forms that they require. Make sure you understand what the timing needs to be. Sometimes that timing is different depending on whether you're doing early action or regular decision. So again, you need to be a US citizen or eligible non-citizen with a green card to complete the FAFSA. Again, our DACA students cannot do this form. It's required by all technical schools, community colleges, and universities. NOVA FAFSA is completed for our NOVA students. It's open now, and it's actually working really well this year, which has been a really wonderful situation. We can complete our FAFSAs with our families in about 30 minutes. And that's one of the things we do at College Access Fairfax is we schedule a one-on-one completion appointment where we work with the student and their parents to help them complete the form. We also offer a number of completion events in person if you would like to meet with someone in person rather than on Zoom that are on the front page of our website. It's on the landing page, www.collegeaccessfairfax.org. So the form results in a number called the Student Aid Index, or SAI. Once you complete the FAFSA form, there's nothing, money doesn't come from FAFSA. It's just a form the college uses to create your financial aid package. So a student, in fact, almost all the students we work with do not file the FAFSA as an independent. It doesn't matter if you are expecting the student to pay for their own college. Until age 24, the federal government says that the FAFSA has to be filled out by the student and their parents, and these parents are either their parents who are married, not married, living together. Married parents can include same-sex couples. If they're separated but living together, they're going to select married on the form. We can actually help you kind of figure out who that other contributor is on the form. I don't want to spend too much time on that today because we're limited. But again, we always walk everybody through it. Okay, so it actually asks the students some questions about their parents' marital status, and that helps determine who they're going to invite to the form as a contributor. Just like with the student, the contributors also have to provide personal and financial information in their section of the form. I'd like to emphasize that this is a student form. completed with the help of the parents. It is not a parent form. Once it's completed, all of the emails and information goes directly to the student. So the first thing that we tell people to do is to create their FSA ID. You can actually just, even if you just Googled create your FSA ID, it would take you right to where you do it. You need some information to do this, including your social security number, your date of birth, just all of that demographic information. The student and parent, we don't need both parents to create an FSA ID, just one. Um, However, for our students and our parents, I'd like to point out that a student uses their personal email address and their own cell phone number. A parent, when they create their FSA ID, needs to use their own email address and their own cell phone number. It's very important that you do not try to use the same information for both of those. It gets really tangled up and is very hard to fix. So this is a list of generally what you want to have on hand. So this is information for both the student and the parent. We need those social security numbers or the permanent resident green card number if that is your student situation. We need the um, the list of the schools the student has applied to or plans to apply to. It's okay if that list is not perfect. If there's a school on there and the student doesn't end up applying to it, nothing happens with that information. We need the date of birth of the student and parent, the marriage date, and the parent's divorce date if it's applicable, and the residency in the state of Virginia. It says student driver's license, but that's completely optional. We also need financial information. So in a nutshell, we need to have this year the 2024 taxes and the W-2 forms, the wage statements. But for assets, we want the current assets. So we would want like today's amount of money in the checking account, the savings account. We need to know other asset accounts, such as your 529 college savings account, other investment records, stocks and bonds, etc. We do not look at retirement assets. We don't look at the value of a home other than a second home. If there was an investment property, we would need that. So again, current assets, but tax years for this year, we're looking at 2024. We don't always use depending on what's able to be pulled in from the IRS directly, we don't always need to use a lot of detail on those forms. Sometimes it doesn't get pulled in directly, and then we do need to use the forms and pull numbers off of them. But for a lot of our families this year, they're getting pulled in directly, and we're not really having to turn to those forms very much. Okay, so again, if you are a senior or the parent of a senior, you are starting the 26-27 FAFSA form because that is the first year of college. We know it's currently the year 25-26, but that's not the correct form for you. Seniors use 26-27. All right, again, it's going to ask you right when you get in the form to consent to have direct transfer of that IRS information into the form. You must say yes. If you do not say yes, the student will not be eligible for federal student aid, even if you put those numbers in yourself. You have to say yes to the automatic transfer. And that's true for the student and the parent. Okay, as I said before, this is the list of assets that you do need to include and don't need to include. We need to know your current cash, checking, and savings. And these, again, this is both the student needs to provide these and the parent needs to provide them for themselves. So if you have CDs, we're going to include those, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. If you're receiving any child support, we need that number. We're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail. Again, not your primary residence, but a vacation home or an investment property. We're going to need the equity for that. 529 plans, Coverdell savings accounts, or other qualified education savings plans. Now, we used to have to include the 529 plans for all the students in the family, but that's changed. And now we just need the one whose FAFSA we're working on for the 529. UGMA and UTMA accounts for which you are the owner. stock options, and installment and land sale contracts. We do not include equity in your personal residence, the value of life insurance. We don't include the value of any of your retirement plans, your 401ks, your IRAs, your KIOs. We don't include economic impact payments. Whenever we have an SAI that is incorrect, it is often due to someone accidentally putting in their retirement accounts or their primary residence. If you are a person that would need to put in the child support, it depends on when you're completing the FAFSA. If you're completing it from now to the end of the year, you're going to use the total you received in 2024. If you complete your FAFSA starting in January, in January 2026, you're going to include the amount you received in 2025. Okay, so there is some untaxed income that must be reported on the FAFSA. Payments to tax-deferred pension and retirement savings plans, IRA deductions to DEP, Simple, KEO, or other qualified plans, tax-exempt interest income, untaxed portions of IRA distributions, untaxed portions of pensions, and veterans' non-education benefits. If you're busy taking notes, I know that this is a lot. This PowerPoint is actually available on our website under workshops. So don't feel like you have to write down everything on all of these slides. You can look at a copy of it later on. So let's talk about the submission and FAFSA submission summary email that you get. You're going to review the summary page to make sure that all of your information is correct. And at that point, you can make corrections. Once all the information's been entered into the form, you're going to sign the FAFSA electronically. Now, I want to talk a little bit about process. We have found that there's a very specific way to do it where it goes the most smoothly. I prefer to have the student start the form, complete their side, and sign it, and then log out. And then at that point, we have the parents sign in. They're going to go directly to their invitation that they've received in their email that the student sent to them, and then go from there into the form, complete their side of the form, and then sign. If you there's an issue that they haven't quite resolved yet, where if you do half the form, don't sign it, you do the other half of the form, you don't sign it. If you go back and forth between the two sides before one side is finished, you end up in a loop that is hard to fix, where both sides get sign and submit and your form goes in without a signature, which of course you don't want. It's really creates some issues. So we do think that that is the best way to complete the form without errors. Once you have signed and submitted the form, the student aid index, the SAI, will be displayed on the FAFSA submission summary. Hopefully the parents' information will be automatically transferred to other FAFSAs. I haven't done that yet this year, so I haven't tested that out, but you should be able to not have to put it in again. So if you start a form and it's not completed within 45 days, it's going to be automatically deleted. It will go away. So I do suggest that you try to complete your FAFSA in one or no more than 2 sessions. So 3 to 5 days after you do that electronic submission, the student, and I emphasize the student, will receive an email with their FAFSA submission summary. It's going to list the information that they entered into the form. If there's any mistakes, you can correct it and update it at that point. You cannot correct and update it in between the time you submit it. It's being processed before you get that finalized email. But at that point, you could correct it if you needed to. It's going to have that student aid index, that number that the government feels you would be able to contribute to college in a year. And you do need to do this form each year. The SAI is just for the 1 year. In fall, every year while you're in school, you'll be completing the FAFSA. So I do suggest you keep a copy of the summary and the student and parents FAFSA IDs, again, because you're going to be using them every year. Okay, this is what FAFSA submission summary looks like. You can see with this particular student that their estimated federal student aid package includes a Pell Grant, looks like a partial Pell Grant because it's up to $4,500 or so. It included some federal direct loans and some work study. So you can actually pull up this submission summary at any point going into your account later on. Okay. So the student aid index, again, you can kind of think of it as a dollar amount that they believe you would be able to contribute to a year of college. If you get a negative number, just think of it as a zero. Um, and if you have a zero or a negative number, you'll be eligible for federal grants. Um, it You can also get partial federal grants as well, depending on what your SAI is. These are just the steps for you to retrieve your FAFSA submission summary. You log in using your ID and password, and then on your dashboard, there's a section called My Info. You go into My Activity, and your form is there. You can open it up and look at your submission summary. But I do recommend that once you receive that email with it, that you print it out and just keep a paper copy on hand just in case. So I'm not going to talk much about VASA today because we're really limited on time. If you believe you are not eligible to complete FAFSA, we also help students and their families complete VASA with a V, which enables you to get Virginia state grants if you go to a public school in Virginia. So if you feel like that might be your situation, please contact us. We can help you determine that. You would not do FAFSA and VASA. You do one or the other. The only time a student might do both is if they don't have their green card yet. They do VASA later on in the year. They get their green card. We have them do FAFSA at that time. But most students will do one or the other. Okay. Again, it only qualifies a student for Virginia state grants. There are no federal loans associated with VASA. But it may also qualify you for some institutional scholarships from Virginia colleges. So for our students who are male, it is law that a male must register with Selective Service within 30 days of his 18th birthday, including undocumented males ages 18 to 25. They register at this website we have here. It used to be a question on FAFSA. It's no longer a question on FAFSA, but it is a question on VASA. So that student aid index is that federal calculation based on that information you put in the form. It essentially, there's an algorithm in the FAFSA, and everything that you have answered goes into that algorithm and then spits out this number called the student aid index. This is the number that the colleges use to create your financial aid package. They're not going to create a financial aid package for you unless you've applied there and they accept you. That's when you would get a financial aid package. So once you complete FAFSA, all of your communications after that point will be with the universities. So again, they look at your income that you put in there, your assets. They look at the number you have in your household. And they used to take into account the number in college. The algorithm doesn't look at that anymore, but the college might look at that. The marital status and the dependency status of the student. Again, the approximate financial resources the family has available to pay for 1 year of college costs, and it's sent to the schools. So the FAFSA can currently hold 20 schools at one time. They've expanded that, so that's really good. So again, when we sit down and do your FAFSA, complete your FAFSA, it's one of the things the student puts in, or, which schools am I considering? And again, they don't have to be schools they've already applied to. It just has to be ones that they're looking at seriously. Now, this is the second form some students need to complete in addition to FAFSA. About 250 schools require it. It's actually owned by College Board. With FAFSA, a student goes out and gets their FSA ID, and so does the parent. That's not the case with CSS Profile. The student just uses their College Board login, and the parent doesn't need to get their own account. These are the schools in the state of Virginia that require the CSS Profile: William and Mary, Christendom, Hollins, Patrick Henry, University of Richmond, University of Virginia, and Washington and Lee. again, these are available now. There is a cost if your family income is above $100,000. If it's below, you can complete this form for free. Okay, and then occasionally a college will have their own form, but you would see that on their financial aid page. So the submission deadlines are different than admission deadlines. If you are applying to lots of schools, I would recommend keeping a spreadsheet so you don't miss any of the deadlines. For our early action students who want to be considered for merit aid, some of those deadlines are happening really soon. Again, you have to look at each school individually. They don't all work the same. So we do recommend that all forms are submitted by the earliest deadline. And again, you can complete these forms now, they're all open. So the college essentially takes the information that was put into the FAFSA and it looks at any other financial assistance that you're receiving, such as outside scholarships. They take those numbers and subtract it from their cost of attendance, and that difference is the student's determined financial need. The college will send financial aid packages to accepted students, and those packages will include some combination of grants, scholarships, work study, and loans. Some students are contacted to verify the information they've put in their FAFSA. The student is the one who's notified about this. It would come in the form of an email, or sometimes it's in the application portal. Make sure that if you are asked to verify your information and submit forms, that you do so. If you don't submit verification forms when you're asked to, you will never receive your financial aid package. Sometimes it's random. Sometimes schools do it a specific way. Don't be nervous if you're selected for verification. It doesn't mean that they thought you lied. It's not like getting audited by the IRS. It's just something, it's sort of another step in the process for many students in many schools. So from school to school, the financial aid packages should include everything here, such as the cost of attendance, including the tuition and fees, the housing and food, the books and supplies, travel and personal expenses. It should have your student aid index. And again, that financial aid can come in many forms, some of which would be gift aid and some of which would be self-help aid. We do recommend comparing financial aid packages from school to school using a spreadsheet. You want to make sure you're completing or you're comparing apples and apples, because sometimes those financial aid packages look a little different from each other. And it will really help you determine what is the most advantageous financial aid package for you. A student may not accept everything that's in that financial aid package. It's up to you whether you accept all of it or none of it or part of it. But you do need to make sure that you're keeping track of it. Sometimes this information does end up in the student portal under financial aid. Just make sure you're checking that regularly to make sure that there's no action required on your part. We are running pretty short on time, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on this page, but its purpose is just to show you that different schools may offer you different institutional aid or merit aid, and that it can definitely impact your college costs. So everyone needs to let their colleges know by May 1st whether or not they're going to enroll in that particular college. The only difference is for our students who do early decision, they've already committed to enrolling in that college if they're accepted. It's different than early action. I'm sure you've been speaking with your students about this. So again, so once the student has decided on which school, they're going to need to complete any financial aid procedures that the school requires. Okay, if we have military families in the audience, we actually have two presentations we have coming up for military families. Please check our website for those dates and times for these presentations. We have a person whose expertise is in this area who will be doing the presenting for those. We're really fortunate in Fairfax County Public Schools. We have so many resources that are available to our students. As you know, your student has a high school counselor that they can consult. But one of the things that sets us apart from other school districts is that we have college and career center specialists in every high school. And I worked with these people for a number of years, and I'm never stopped being impressed with their level of expertise and the care um, they take and the amount of support they give our students. I mean, they're next level. I think that they're a really wonderful resource. If your student does not know who that person is or has not stopped by the College and Career Center, please have them meet this person in their school. They can help with so many different things, whether it's finding scholarships or selecting a college or learning about different majors. They are very, very dedicated. Colleges and universities, their financial aid offices are full of very nice people. Don't be nervous about contacting them. The financial aid office is not the admissions office. It's usually a separate building with separate staff. They are happy to answer any questions that you have. There are many financial information workshops throughout the year that we have for Fairfax County Public Schools. Our website is a great place to go for resources. We have a resource page on our website. Please visit. We also have a scholarship page on our website. You can look at some scholarships that we manage. We do recommend you going to some online sites that we've put here that will give you some more information. Scholarship information, there are actually a lot of scholarship scams out there. We always tell students, please don't ever pay for a scholarship to apply for a scholarship. Make sure that you are dealing with a reputable organization that's not just going to try to collect your information and sell it. We have several reputable ones listed on our website, and you can be confident in any scholarship that you'll see in the Naviance database. We didn't talk about this earlier, but it's something really, really important. So when students pick colleges and they're creating a college list, they're told to select colleges that are match colleges and safety schools and reach schools and have a nice assortment of those. And they're going to base this list a lot of times on their grades, on their test scores. I want to go to college in the city. I want a college with a big football team. There's a lot of things that our students look at. But we do like to emphasize that not only does the college need to be a good fit in all those different areas, but it needs to be a financial fit for a family. And there's a really great way to determine if a college is a good financial fit. So each college has something called the net price calculator on their website. You can actually go to the search on the website for the college, just put in net price calculator, and it will take you right there. Now, my understanding is that the net price calculators are fairly accurate within a few $1,000s, and it will give you a good sense of what that college might cost you. It's a great thing to do to sit down with your student and run the net price calculator for all the schools and make sure you have an open discussion. I have had students in the past who applied to schools that were not a financial fit for their family, and they ran into some difficulties later in the year when they, you know, when they couldn't figure out how they would pay for it based on the financial aid package that they got. It's a good idea to know what that financial aid package might look like ahead of time. So please do run the net price calculators for the schools that you're looking at. There's also a federal student aid estimator you can use, but I do recommend the net price calculator specifically. You can also learn about colleges using College Navigator or College Scorecard. I mentioned that the student side of Naviance looks different than the parent side. The student side of Naviance has tons of college resources that you can use in order to look at colleges and look at scattergrams to see what your likelihood is of getting into a college and about graduation rates and things like that. So please do make sure that your student is going into their side of Naviance and using those resources. So I know I really kind of pushed up against these deadlines right now. Let's see if we have some questions that maybe I didn't address. And I think someone is going to be reading me those questions. Let me take a look.
Thank you, Bonnie, for such a wonderful presentation. Um, as far as questions go, if there are any questions that come in, they can be submitted to questions@collegeaccessfairfax.org. This session is being recorded and will be shared out by Fairfax County Public Schools. Thank you for joining us at the Paying for College session as part of the post-secondary virtual night event. Have a great evening.
I'm going to stop sharing just so that I can see the questions better. Okay, it looks like we have at least one. So we do, there are several good scholarship. I'm trying to think if scholarships.com is on our website. I would say go ahead to our collegeaccessfairfax.org website, and if you scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, we have some that you can take a look at. I'm not sure if scholarship.com is one of them. Oh, okay. I can answer this one. Our website link. Oops. Let me type the answer. Actually, I lost the question. Answered. Hang on a second. Let me go back to that question. Here we go. All right. That's our website. There's also, I didn't mention, but on that website is also how you can make an appointment with us. There's a link to make an appointment for support completing the FAFSA, or if you just have other questions. Okay. No, CSS profile is for schools all over the country. It is, I would say it's your most competitive schools, but it's a lot of competitive public schools as well. So think about, I was working with a family yesterday and I looked at, so University of Michigan requires it, NYU requires it. I'm trying to think of, there's actually, if you go to, you just put CSS profile in a search engine and it will take you to this purple page. You know you're in the right place. And if you scroll down on the left side, there's a link where you can look and see which schools require it. You can sort it by state. But it's in the state of Virginia, we have only 6 that require it, but nationally there's like 200 or 250 schools. So if you are, I have a question here about working on campus to earn money. If you are eligible for federal work study, you would work that out with the financial aid office, what jobs there are that are available. A lot of students have other jobs that are not related to school, that they work on off campus at local restaurants and things like that, depending on their ability to get to a different location than campus. The nice thing about the campus jobs is they're usually easy to get to on the campus bus or to walk to.
Thank you, everyone. I do need to close the session to allow people enough time to transition. Thank you for joining us for Paying for College session. Have a great evening.